Hi, I'm Tyler, and welcome to another episode of my Christian Music Week reviews. Each week I take 5 releases, beat out the beats or singles, and after I listen to them all week, I come back here and I review them. I share what I think about them. So without further ado, let's get to this week's first release. Forrest Frank's new album, Child of God 2. Forrest Frank's new album, Child of God 2. Before I dive into it, I thank the Christian Life for requesting this album, along with Olivia Lane's album that I'm going to get to a little later on in this video. Let's talk about Forrest Frank right now. Child of God 2 is the sequel to last year's album, Child of God, that I reviewed both the regular and deluxe edition for on this channel. If you want to go back and hear my thoughts on that a little bit later on. But on this video, let's talk about Child of God 2. So, I instantly kind of liked the sound for a lot of this album. Kind of had me bobbing my head. But vocally, there were some moments that I definitely wasn't a fan of. Some moments I liked, some moments I didn't like. The third listen, though, I overall have to say I enjoyed the album. But the first couple of listens, the vocals I was definitely... Some tracks I like, some tracks I don't like. That's just my take, though. Stylistically here, definitely an upbeat combination of pop, hip-hop, and R&B that can get hard-hitting at some points. There are also a few ballad moments here on the sound that add some contemporary, alternative, and worship influence. And it's worth knowing that on the upbeat and hard-hitting hip-hop moments, sometimes specific trap and lo-fi influences can enter in. There are also a couple moments where Forrest Frank just talks over a contemporary worship ballad type of backing. On the opening track, Encore, where he talks to his granddad. And then on the second to last song, that sounds like it was recorded live, where he gives his testimony. Actually, I shouldn't say songs for those tracks. I should say more like tracks. If all we're honest. Vocally here, singing vocals first and foremost, but definitely some sing rapping. And an amount of rapping, too. And as for the lyrics here, pretty good lyrics here. Forrest Frank talks about how he joyfully, gratefully praises the Lord Jesus for how he can trust his faith in Jesus and love to be faithfully with him, to save him through Jesus' sacrificial death on the cross and resurrection, to be free from living sinfully on his own, to have joyful, satisfying new life as God's child, surrendered to following Jesus and proclaiming him to this generation, even in hard times, that Forrest trusts Jesus to restore him from. Up next, Nobigdyl and Kato on the Tracks, new collaborative EP, Soul Brother. Alright, The Christian Life, I will talk about your other request, Olivia Lane's new album, Songs About Jesus, eventually. But before I do that, I'm going to take a little aside here to talk about Nobigdyl and Kato on the Tracks, new EP, Soul Brother, with Nobigdyl on raps and Kato on the track on production. Let's dive into it. Before I share my thoughts on it, kind of fun backstory to this EP. It was birthed out of when Nobigdyl challenged himself to see if he could do a project in a week, and this is the result. And I have to say, it's a pretty good result. Stylistically, definitely a collection of hard-hitting hip-hop songs here. First half, lean towards the trap side of things. Second half, lean towards the lo-fi hip-hop side of things while still going pretty hard. Definitely lean towards those rapping vocals as well from Nobigdyl. And as for the lyrics here, pretty good lyrics here. Nobigdyl talks about how the Lord Jesus, in his love through his sacrifice, has changed Nobigdyl free from sin to peacefully trust Jesus, to faithfully be with him, to give him strength, to victoriously overcome depression, to uncompromisingly live his purpose of glorifying Jesus by proclaiming this love to others through rap music. Up next, Olivia Lane's new album, Songs About Jesus. Alright, the Christian Life, I'm gonna get to your other requests, and thanks again for requesting Forrest Frank earlier. And now I'm gonna get to your other request, which I'm also thankful for. Olivia Lane's new album, Songs About Jesus. So, even though this isn't her overall debut album, she's actually put out 3 albums before this one. This is her first Christian album. So let's dive into it here. So pretty good album here. Stylistically, definitely quite a few different styles going on here. Elements of contemporary, country, pop, and folk are in here. Leaning slightly toward the ballad side of the equation, but definitely some upbeat moments here as well. And as for the lyrics here, love the lyrics here. Really encouraging lyrics here about how Jesus has changed her life and also how she seeks to trust in him. And as for the lyrics here, Olivia Lane talks about how she used to fearfully think Jesus wanted her to feel hopelessly ashamed of sin without hope of changing until she learned to trust him to be good, to in his unconditional love and grace to be patiently, faithfully with her to change her from that past, to have life of joyfully praising him as God's child, who trusts her faith in God when waiting in uncertainty through hopeless hurt to provide her needs for strength and good restoration from the hurt in his timing. Up next, Matthew Parker's new EP, Melancholy. Matthew Parker's new EP, Melancholy. Let's dive into it. So pretty good EP here, stylistically. Definitely on the upbeat synth pop side of things for the most part. One song that I say changed it up a little bit though is Wishing Well, which has a little bit more of an upbeat alternative pop rock feel to it. And as for the lyrics here, so definitely a story here on this EP, and kind of a sad one, of a boyfriend and girlfriend relationship. And as for the lyrics here, Matthew Parker talks about a boy who tries to hide how he feels overwhelmingly sad and lonely in the city because he thinks that his relationship with the girl who gave him peace is over. And he needs to have the relationship revived by having her with him. Up next, our last release for today, Angie Rose's deluxe edition for her latest album, The Letters I Never Sent. The deluxe edition of Angie Rose's latest album, The Letters I Never Sent. Let's dive into it. So, pretty good deluxe edition here. Let's take a look at what's new on this deluxe. So, Victory gets a part 2 with new verses from DKG Kai and Toya Love. Lifeline gets a part 3 with a new verse from Mike Teasy. We have a brand new Spanish song on here called Soy Feliz. And then I See You, Invisible God gets an Afro mix. Kind of has a little bit of an Afrobeat feel to it. And new verse from Cruise Control. Stylistically here. So, the original one was kind of a pop, R&B, and hip-hop thing. But here, pop and hip-hop takes a little bit more of a center stage, I would say, in the new tracks here. Vocally here, singing and rapping. And as for the lyrics here, and I'm going to speak for the whole album here, and as for the lyrics here, Angie Rose talks about how when she struggled with the pain of loss that led her into sin, she needed to keep trusting her faith in Jesus, to in his love, be faithfully with her, to heal her free, to have strength for victory over that through his sacrificial blood and his death on the cross, to have life of happily living her purpose of glorifying him by reflecting and proclaiming that healing to others. Good lyrics here. Well, that's it for this week. Come back next week for 5 more releases. If you like what's on this video, please subscribe. I put out videos every Friday at 9:30 a.m. Pacific Time. Also, if you have any thoughts on today's releases or what I may have said about them, let me know that in the comments below. Also in the comments, you can let me know if there's any awesome releases that came out today that you want to see in next week's video. Also, check out the playlist section here on YouTube. And if you want the Spotify link, go to my community tab for that, for the My Music Month of Dream playlist. And this month's edition, the playlist includes songs from artists like Patrick Mayberry, Carrie Underwood, Carrie Job, Phil Wickham, Charity Gale, and others. So go and check that out if you're interested. Well, go now. See you next week. Bye!